Live, this time from Williamsport, Pennsylvania. Today's question comes to us from Lauren, and bear with me, she sent quite a message with this question, and you'll see why here in a minute. So in her email, excuse my glance as I'm looking off at the email here. In her email, she talks about a new horse that she got about a year ago, an Appaloosa from Colorado. She says in the time that she's had this horse, she's learned that he has some sort of psychological issue. She says, I've tied him next to other horses and tied him by himself. She says he will pull back and flip over, causing the lead rope to snap. She says, I purchased a blocker tie ring and a 20-foot lunge line, and I've been tying him to a thinking tree for a few hours at a time as much as possible. Most of these incidences, she says, have happened with him being tied to the trailer. So she says most, but not all. So that's something to think about. She says what is odd is that he'll stand for an hour and a half to 2 hours perfectly fine, and then out of nowhere he decides to just flip over backwards with no indication, no rhyme, no reason. Let me see here. She says there's been about 5 different times where he's flipped over while tied to the trailer with a saddle on, and there was one time where he came down on the ground. The lead rope did not break. She says he got into kind of a humbled state where he just laid there paralyzed, basically probably in shock by the sound of it. We had to cut the lead rope with a knife and undo the saddle as he laid on the ground because he wouldn't get up. I've been working on hobble breaking him, and he's been doing great with that. Last weekend I had one of my horses tied to the trailer, and I decided I would just hobble him next to the trailer instead of tying him. Things were going well. He was doing perfectly fine, standing perfectly still, until she went to tighten the saddle, and then he flipped over backwards. Again, out of nowhere, it looks, with a very expensive saddle on, says for the 5th time. So, let's see, because this time he was not tied, she says it's absolutely mind-boggling. I've learned never to put my saddle on him. What gives? Apparently she took him then away from the trailer, away from the other horse, and put the saddle on him after he'd gotten up, and he was fine. Let's see. So basically he's standing tied for a length of time, an hour and a half to 2 hours, and occasionally, it sounds like mostly with the saddle, he's flipping over. That to me is pretty concerning. So Lauren wants some advice on that. Now, what I'm going to go back to is the out of nowhere, no rhyme or no reason. And there's some of you have probably heard my joke about the 4 lies of horsemanship. I joke the 4 lies are all of a sudden, out of nowhere, for no reason, and without warning. The reality is, to the horse, it's not out of nowhere. Things like this build up. It's never without reason, or it wouldn't happen. For no without warning, yeah, maybe without warning that we recognize, right? All of a sudden, out of nowhere, for no reason, without warning. Those, again, I joke those are the 4 lies of horsemanship, but this is a really interesting thing to me, and I wish that I had a better answer. I wish that I could see a video or see this horse in person, Lauren, so I'm going to ask you if you can to please maybe send me some sort of a video of working with him. I kind of find it interesting, and I'm going to pick on people, the English world and the Western world for a moment here, and I know that all of our viewers are going to take this the right way. I find it very interesting. Most of the riders I deal with of the English disciplines, when we see some sort of a challenge, and I'm one of those, when we see some sort of a challenge with a horse or a problem with a horse, we always want to think it must be some sort of a pain issue. It must be some sort of a body problem issue. So we'll call the chiropractor, we'll call the dentist, we'll call the masseuse, we'll call the massage therapist, we'll call the acupuncturist, we'll call the animal communicator, we'll call everybody in that we can think of. On the Western side of things, which I'm also a part of, so I can pick on that as well, we'll assume that every problem is a behavioral problem. So we'll say, well, no matter what's going on, it must be behavior, it must be disrespect, it must be that we don't have our foundation right. And this is one of those things, this challenge in particular, is one of those things where I feel like we really need to come to the middle ground here. So some of the things that we know, and again, I haven't seen this horse, so I'm just evaluating based on this email, but some of the things that we know about this horse is that Lauren has done quite a bit of work with him. She's hobble training him. She's apparently she was riding him if she saddled him. I wouldn't be riding him if he's flipping over with the saddle on, but so she's riding him. She's done quite a bit of groundwork with him. She's tied him for an hour and a half to 2 hours at a time, and he stands fine for up to that length of time. So to me, and again, I'm probably not going to be giving Lauren any great insight on this. To me, if the horse is standing tied quietly and everything is great for an hour and a half to 2 hours, it's no longer a behavioral issue. Unless there are some other things taking place that we're really missing in our evaluation of what's going on. If he's standing still for an hour and a half to 2 hours, my thought would be potentially he does have some sort of physical challenge, physical problem going on in his body. If he were my horse, or if he were a horse in my care, I would want for sure to have a veterinarian evaluate this horse. I'd be looking at something like x-rays or body scans or MRIs or whatever. I would want a complete workup by the best veterinarians that I could find, because again, she's obviously putting in a lot of work with this horse. She's putting in a lot of try with this horse. This is something that we want to get to the bottom of. Now, potentially, maybe he didn't have a problem to begin with, and maybe this is just some random, out of the blue, flipping over after 2 hours of standing tied quiet. I don't know. But another thing that I do know, based on the email that she sent us, is that he's flipped over 5 times now. I think she said 5 times now, wearing the saddle. So my guess is going to be that if he didn't have anything physically wrong with him before that, there's probably a good chance that he does now, because the bulk and the substance of a saddle, if the horse is flipping over on top of that, there's a good chance that that's going to cause some sort of physical problem. We've seen horses with, fractured shoulders as a result of flipping over with a saddle on. We've seen vertebral fractures through the back. We've seen vertebral fractures in the withers, lots of muscular damage, things like that. So again, without seeing the challenge to begin with, my best answer for this situation is to say, I don't know, and I'm really sorry that I don't know, but I'm not afraid to admit that. I don't know, and I would be very curious to see this horse in person or in video at least, to see what kind of challenge is going on with this horse. So Lauren, my advice is going to be take him to a veterinarian, send him somewhere where they can give him a whole head-to-toe kind of a workup and see what they might be able to find. Because with the work that you're putting into him and with the length of time that he'll stand at that trailer, I don't think what you're looking at is necessarily a behavioral issue. If it is, it's very serious, and we need to see him in a clinic somewhere. But I would want to rule out anything the vets might find first. So I hope that that's helpful, Lauren, for your problem, and I hope that gives some of you other folks out there something to think about. That sometimes, again, I poked on the English world versus the Western world, but it goes across the board. Some of us, that's our first go-to, is that everything must be a health problem or a physical problem, and others of us, we say first off that must be a behavioral problem. And there's times when we're all wrong, and it's something in the middle or something on the other side of the fence. So with something serious like this, have the veterinarian take a look at that. Have a serious veterinarian take a look at that. Maybe one of the bigger vet clinics around the country. That would be something. It's definitely something I would implore you to have looked at a little bit farther. So, Basic, general, easy question of the day. I love getting the answers from you guys for the questions of the day. So, easy question of the day today. How long have you been riding or involved with horses? Let us know. Give me your answer in the comments below this video. Again, if you haven't yet done so, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We upload these videos every night to our YouTube channel. So if you miss any of our live broadcasts, you have an opportunity to check back in. Those videos are always there for you to watch, share, comment, like, whatever. So don't forget, gang, you keep sending your questions. I'll keep giving you answers. Thanks so much.